Monday the 10th of May, Geoff Thompson training log, fight for the streets, still aiming to qualify for those streets, gain selection for those streets, and to compete for those streets at European, more unlikely as I speak, to the June final Olympic qualifiers in Paris, and to Tokyo revised 2020-2021 Olympic Games. As of this morning, I'll be responding to the EKF President, who I will not name because I feel it would be inappropriate to do so. That would mean that in my response, which will be made an open letter, it would not be deemed as emotionally removed in its intelligence and applied intellect. For those of you, again, Thompson's at it again with his use of words. I cannot be selected. The rules say I cannot be selected. The strict government rules, the UK sport rules, means that in the EKF's eyes and position, their hands are tied. Whether it be myself or any other English Karate Federation member or athlete, with the mandate that the EKF have, the English Karate Federation, and only those on the Olympic pathway, sanctioned by the British Karate Federation and supported by UK sport, I cannot go. What I am seeking to still have answered is this question. What is the selection criteria? Acknowledging, as was in the letter to me, that these are unusual times and the COVID lockdown meant that a revised English selection policy had to be put in place. Despite repeated attempts to secure that policy, I've not been afforded a copy of that policy. All governing bodies, including the British Karate Federation and the English Karate Federation, have an equality, diversity and inclusion policy. Appreciating that they're now easing lockdown and many governing bodies and international governing bodies have their qualification events at this present moment in time, the government and UK sport should be providing an eased set of policies to allow late considerations, as would always be the case and should be the case, on the simple fact that athletes will have been preparing individually. So what collective sessions have been organised with the easing of lockdown now in place? What provisions are there being made to establish who's injured, who isn't, who's ready or who isn't ready? These are questions a good governing body, with its governance, policies, procedures and protocols, should be able to afford anybody so as to avoid any potential feelings of discrimination, which I am currently feeling. If you have worked hard to prepare and announce yourself ready to be considered, that should be afforded anybody. So I'll be taking my case to UK sport and the government, because that's the age in which we are in now, challenging what works or what doesn't work, because we need to improve if we're to learn from these extraordinary times in which we live and which we face. But please equally be advised, lives lost at this weekend, all too young, far too much violence on our streets, and equally abroad on our streets, to not see us as a global movement of sportsmen and women and activists. Once we take to the knee or raise a fist to do something collectively about it. Everybody knows what the combat sports can do in particular to channel that aggression that is far too violent on our streets at this moment in time. So Fight for the Streets is still real, it is still required, and I'll still be campaigning, and I'll beat the drum, and I'll set the example, and I'll lead until others align with me. This is a fight we cannot lose. Or I'd go as far as to say we've lost enough lives, we cannot fail. The societal cost would be too great. So for those who continue to try and stop me, please understand me. I'm not for giving up, and I never give in. God has a sense of humour, Keep the spirit alive. Geoff Thompson keeping it real. Usha!